Welcome to the Red Dot Perspective. We're here to break down global news, insights with a Singaporean twist. I mean, our discussions aren't rehearsed, just free-form chats between good friends who love talking about everything from serious topics to everyday BS. But let us first, go through why we started Red Dot Perspective. Let's first start with the logo, and let's talk to our great artist Kian Boon. Maybe he can share with us his inspiration for the logo.
The logo. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, right? I get my news from sources like Mothership, Daily Catch Up, and I love them. So because they cover Singapore news and often from a good Singaporean perspective. But one of the things I kind of realized is that I like global news. I like to know what Trump is doing at any given point in time, what's happening in Europe and all this stuff. But what's kind of lacking is that like no one seems to be giving it from a Singapore perspective. So that's how we kind of started this, right? We wanted to look at global as well as Singapore news, then kind of look at it from the lens of a Singaporean. So the logo reflects that, right? Where obviously the red dot refers to our country nation, and then the P refers to perspective. And I try to be corny about it, right? So the red dot is small because our country is small, but our perspective is big. So that's why you see the P is like that big.
Outsized is like a guy, in this direction, correct?
Yeah, correct. So that's the whole big long and short of it. Then we also want to have a logo that is like, easy to see. So this logo that you see here is a combination of all of these reasons, corny or otherwise.
But I think the logo is small on the frame right now. But if you were to look deep into it, it's actually not a full circle. It's not a circular dot. Maybe you could share with us your inspiration. Why is it not a full circle? Why is it not a full stop? Not like Deloitte.
It's a playful thing, because like obviously knowledge is not even, right? So even our perspective will not be even. So we wanted to be cute about it and made that red dot uneven to reflect that. But it's a detail that's probably not going to be seen by a lot of people, but nonetheless it's like kind of like an inside joke, right?
No, but most importantly is if our viewers, you have any comments or more information that we're not taking into our discussion, please do put in your comments. We are happy to take in every information out there and actually try to make our analysis more robust. And the thing is, you all might not understand. Kevin said that we were talking about it and then we came up with this right now perspective. Actually, how we did it was we were literally 10 p.m. in a prata stall talking about life, talking about work, and then we're talking, hey, we like to talk about many things. Why don't we just try YouTube? And Kembo, you are a gamer YouTuber right now, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Full-time content creator.
So that's our inspiration, correct? So it really came out from one prata and one teh chino ice for me. I think it was teh halia for you, and that's how this gave birth. And you do not want to know the tech setup. It looks smooth, we have the backgrounds done properly. I hopefully the sound is okay. But me and Kevin spent nights trying to fix this, trying to find multiple solutions. And maybe Kevin, you can just share with everybody what 3-day ordeal.
Actually, at the end of the day, right, no one wants to know how the mincemeat is made. The long and short of it is that I think I have a profound respect for people who do profound respect for people who do live stream. I see what you're doing there, David. Yeah, it's not easy. I won't get the whole meat of it, but the point is that we're sorted it out. We're going to do this on a weekly basis, and we're just going to go out there and try to give some perspective on things that are interesting or instructive for Singaporeans.
Yep. We have shared a little bit of our inspiration, what Red Dot Perspective is. Maybe let's just give a quick introduction of who we are. Well, Kian Boon, why don't you start first?
Okay, I'm Kian Boon. I worked over 10 years in the oil and gas company as an analyst. More recently, I started going to full-time content creation, and I have a gaming channel that you guys can check out. In addition, I also wanted to do things that are more instructive in nature. So started talking with David 2 weeks ago, and we talked about covering current affairs. So here I am.
Good. One important thing, what is your gaming channel handle? So people interested can watch you. Come on, market yourself, man.
Thanks for the free plug. Yeah, I'll put a link below. So after this video is uploaded into YouTube, I'll set up a link. So thanks, David.
Great. Well, hi everyone. I'm David. I probably had more job titles than most people have thoughts. So I worked in a variety of roles in finance, started my career in banking, then moved on to an oil and gas company, then after that a telco, and finally, I worked in a sovereign wealth fund in the private markets, trying to make sense of big investments without losing my sanity. I'm a lifelong learner. I love a good debate. So if you disagree with me, even better. You're just making the conversation more fun for me. So just feel free, put in your comments if you disagree with us. Happy to learn from you, happy to debate with you, and really just have fun. Correct? All right. So how about this, Cameron? Let's just dive deep into the topic we have today. AI introduction, as what our background says. How about we do that?
Excited. Yeah, let's do it.
Right. So let me just give a background. So I think what we'll do in our conversations is I'll give a background on the topic we're trying to introduce. We'll zoom in on a current affair happening in this particular topic, and then we'll discuss it, our points, the pros and cons. So for today's topic is artificial intelligence. Well, it has become a backbone of innovation in nearly every industry. At the heart of this transformation are large language models, short form LLMs. They're literally AI systems trained to understand and generate human-like text. But some of the key players out there, is the most famous ones are OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, your Google DeepMind, responsible of Gemini. So whenever you Google, you see that first box, that's Gemini. Anthropic, the team behind Claude, and Meta, which develops Llama. So one important point to note is, from the key players, they are mostly US companies. And the US companies have dominated AI, and they have always thought they were always going to dominate it for the next few years. But a really new Chinese upstart called DeepSeek is now making headlines by doing what many thought was impossible, developing a powerful AI model at a fraction of the cost. Now let's dive deep into what makes DeepSeek different and why it matters to you. But maybe Boon, could you describe further what LLMs are? All I know is it's literally just an AI tool able to understand and reply in human text.
I mean, AI to me, right? I mean, if I look at it from the most fundamental form, right, it's about taking a lot of data and then try to make sense of it. So the example I always like to give, right, is like for example, if you want to know what an apple is, you would feed the AI model lots of images of apples, and then eventually you'll figure out what an apple is by the way it looks from a computer perspective. So if you go to like say Google, right, you got those authentication things where they ask you to pick like 3 buses or 3 traffic lights before you can sign into a thing. Why they get you to do that?
Just to see if I'm a human being, right?
I mean, that aside, of course. The whole idea of that is that by seeing which images do people click on to identify like buses or like goats or cars, right? That same information is then fed into a AI model, whether it's Google, Meta, etc. Right? And then it basically helps the model to then understand what cars look like from different angles, different perspectives, different color. Yeah, it's quite remarkable. I always wondered why on earth would they make us do that nonsense. Then I kind of recently realized that.
Yeah, it's actually quite smart. You got like 3 human beings training the model.
Yeah,
correct? Like reinforcement learning. That's actually genius. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. No, thanks for the quick introduction to LLMs. But let us DeepSeek. Let us find out who and what is DeepSeek. Correct? DeepSeek is an AI company based in China. It's literally backed by a Chinese quantitative hedge fund, High Flyer. It's about 100 billion yuan, which put into USD is about $13 billion. Then the interesting thing is, unlike OpenAI or Google, DeepSeek started with a focus on efficiency and developing AI models that require significantly less computing power. And I think Boon, they were saying it took them $6 million to actually create this AI.
Hey, but that number is really, it's not 100% accurate. So okay,
really?
the headline is that it takes $6 million to train the DeepSeek model in order to generate the same or equivalent capabilities of OpenAI's I think the O1 model, right? But the truth is that you think about it, right? $6 million is the computing cost of getting it done. But behind all of that, you have infrastructure, right? So it's like they have like 50,000 GPUs or graphical processing units that they have used in order to gain the insight to do that. So it's like saying, for example, like it takes like $20 per barrel to get oil out of the ground in the US, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the truth is that you don't get oil out of the ground for $20 per barrel, right? Because what you have
Right.
done is you have invested in like oil rigs, infrastructure over in Texas that cost
I
billions and billions of dollars.
see.
So I mean, it is a good headline. It says $6 billion, but the truth is that the number is probably bigger than that. And the truth is that there's even more staggering headlines. Like if you look at
Yeah.
recently, couple of days, I mean, just this few weeks since the whole
Yeah.
commotion, there are news of like people training new models at $450 coming out of China. But the truth is that it is not really $450. You need to consider the infrastructure cost. So I would take that number with a pinch of salt.
No, that's always the thing, correct? The news headlines, they're always looking for clickbaits. There's
Yeah,
something
that's
that's catchy. I once got trapped by one clickbait. They said that NASA found some planet with artificial lighting. So I thought, holy shit, we finally found aliens. But then when I clicked into the various articles, what really was is that NASA has a telescope which is capable of detecting artificial light in
yeah,
another planet. It does not mean they detected artificial light. So no, that's exactly right. Sometimes the news they do clickbaits to get the sensational news to you.
yeah, correct. Yeah.
But we when we look at DeepSeek, we need to understand this founder, this very enigmatic founder. His name is actually Liang Wenfeng. Dude, do you know he's actually born in 1985? He's
About,
literally the same age as us.
yeah.
And no, just to go through his background, it took me some time to find out who he is. So he enrolled in the elite Zhejiang University at the age of 17. 17 years old. I was still in JC. Was I still in JC? No, I was in the army. No, I can't remember. He
Army 18
majored
bro. 18
army
army
18.
Long time, long
JC,
time. Yeah.
JC, JC. Sorry,
JC,
sorry.
yeah.
I'm an old man. I forgot what it was to be a young man. He majored in electronics and communication engineering and then pursued a master's degree, which he completed in 2010. So he co-founded this quantitative hedge fund, High Fly, in 2015. Essentially, it's similar to the Renaissance hedge fund, where they use mathematical algorithms for trading as opposed to human analysis. So basically, he kept a really low profile for years. But actually, in China, the who's who know about him, he was actually quite a big player. In fact, I think they were saying that in January 20th Jan 2025, he was one of the 9 individuals actually that was asked to speak in a closed-door symposium hosted by China's premier Li Qiang.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. He was one of the 9 people. The Chinese knew about him.
Actually, I have a bit of a theory. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory. The truth is that, right?
That's
I
your
think
tinfoil hat, bro. You
the
put your tinfoil hat
US,
on.
yeah, man. So the US government probably already knew about the existence of DeepSeek.
Yes.
And you know why I think so? Because recently the US announced $500 billion investment
Yes.
in
Starship,
infrastructure, right?
correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
database infrastructure in the US to
Yeah.
build data centers essentially. Starship,
Yeah.
Stargate. So if you think about
Starship,
that, right? I think Stargate, yeah, Stargate, because they named it after those portals in the olden days to teleport things and stuff like that. So if you think about the announcement of that, it came almost like right after or around the time when DeepSeek came out with the announcement. So I think the US were already aware that China was building something that was probably more efficient and had very similar capabilities. They were just waiting for the right timing in order to manage the optics of it, because it looks bad, right? Because
Actually, you're
US has
right.
been leading.
You're right. You're right. When I think the news came out that actually OpenAI did detect accounts, many accounts that were coming from DeepSeek. But later on, we will explain to you why and what these accounts were used for. But
Okay.
we have talked about Liang Wenfeng. Let's just take a look at how he looks like. There is actually a short interview by CNBC, and maybe let me share this video.
I don't really hear the sound, David.
Dude,
But
there's
that's okay.
Jeremy Young. You know that, right? There's Jimmy Young.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Actually, this is actually Liang Wenfeng. He really
Yeah.
looks, literally apparently they were saying among the 9 individuals that were in the symposium, he was the only one who was with black hair, look docky and geeky and doing his explanations compared, the guy beside him really looks like his grandfather.
I tell you, when the first time I saw this video, I was
Yeah.
looking at it on the mobile screen. So it only loaded the left side of the picture first. So I honestly thought, right, the guy on the left was Lam Wong-Feng. So then after I read the article, I was like, 40 years
Exactly.
old? Oh man, this guy aged quite bad, huh? Then after that, then I realized it's the guy on the right. Yeah, it's just
But let's be honest, even for 40 years old, he looks very young.
yeah. He does.
No, but the thing with him is, there was an interview done by the China Academy, which is the website I'm sharing. When you read his interview, he's actually has a very different mindset on between the old entrepreneurs, your Jack Ma's, your Baidu founders, versus the new entrepreneurs, which is the post 1985. It's really very, very interesting. Just take a look at some of the quotes he said. He was talking about things like he wants China to actually become something more than just a user, to be a contributor.
I think, right, if you ask me, right, my personal view, right, what we look for it, right, I think China has always played like a follower status when it comes to technology. So like US come up with something and then China follows. So it has always been a paradigm for the past decade or so, right? So that has been the way. But with
Exactly.
this advent of DeepSeek, right, you can see that this thinking is going to subtly change, where China is now seen as a leader in certain areas such as AI now. And you're going to see that people are going to start following that paradigm, and that will then position China in a different kind of way within tech and outside of tech in the global world stage. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch.
That's super important because, as you said, in the past, the prevailing belief was always to be a beneficiary of Western-led technology. It's really, let's think about it. Amazon and Google appeared way before your Baidu and Alibaba, correct? So a lot of it was taking the existing technology from the West, and then applying it and really scaling it up. So he is really an insight. Lam Wong-Feng is an insight to perhaps the next generation of Chinese leaders. Look at his quote here. His view is China must transition from being a beneficiary to a contributor, rather than riding on the coattails of others. So it's really very different. He's really looking to push China from just using what's out there, be a quick follower, to someone who creates, dares to change, dares to innovate. That is very interesting.
Actually, you think about it, right? What Liang Wongfeng is doing with DeepSeek is no different from what China has been doing. I'll give you a parallel example. In the US, the people who came out with phones first is not Apple, but Apple took a idea of a phone, they made it better, and arguably came out with one of the best phones in the world. So they improved on it, iterated on it, and made it better. If you think about what China has done over the past couple of decades, right? US will come out with a solution first, and then China makes it better, makes it more efficient, scales it up in order to have economies of scale. This is no different from what DeepSeek is doing. DeepSeek is simply taking the AI models that are in the US. They made it better by being more efficient while generating the same kinds of answer. So if you ask me, right, Liang Wongfeng is not doing anything different. But what he has done is that he has proven that it is possible to be a leader in a very specific area of AI. And that's the key message that I think, if I were China, that's the key message I want to be selling. And to me, right, it's not surprising that in the upcoming, there's this AI summit that's coming up in Paris, I think mid February. China is actually sending their VP there. And while US is also sending their vice president there too. I think this may be the very first time both of these countries have sent very senior representation to the same platform. And I mean, I don't need to tell you what they're there for. Right? I mean, obviously they're there selling the image, right, the optics of it. So it's one to watch.
No, that's very true, because even that, even so, the Chinese, they have this 5-year plan that they do. In fact, they have identified that AI is one of the top 3 or top 5 initiatives they will launch. It's existential, and really, if I just to jump back to Liang Wongfeng, he's really just trying to change the environment, the culture in China's tech space. He was saying that even though we have giants like ByteDance and Tencent, they're globally significant. His view is that Chinese don't lack the capital. They have the money. It's the confidence and ability to organize, high caliber talent, and then to push it for effective innovation. And he's a very interesting, he's even saying things like, oh, we are shackled by old habits, which is business driven. So, and this is a phase. And really, as you say, now China has a model now, through DeepSeek, where it's less about application, less about business, now more about building future technologies. It's really a change in mindset now over time. And really with leaders like Liang Wenfeng, China will start to advance in many areas, I believe.
I agree.
And then you see even what he said, it's the mindset is totally different. In the past, Chinese, they always keep their tech quite close, correct? He's even saying things. He's trying to copy Silicon Valley, open. So he wants to open source his thing. Giving back is an honor.
Yeah,
honor.
you see the comment he made there about open source, right? Actually, that to me is a call out for me. Right now, in order to sort of showcase the DeepSeek capabilities to the world, he has made it open source to basically demonstrate how wonderful they are, right? But you think about it, at any given time, right, a company can choose to make their open source solution closed source. So there is no saying when this can go closed source at some point in time. So I'll be cautious to when looking at some of these headlines or some of this wonderful messaging that they're giving, how that might pan out in the long term.
But the thing is, it's different from OpenAI or closed AI. Closed AI doesn't even give you the ability to find out the sequential. So I mean, it's an interesting perspective, right? Like China will always think it's very careful with its information, letting the world know. He's trying to push the culture forward. It's pretty interesting, and really, even you look at his interview, he's talking about how he wants to hire people. Correct? It's quite interesting. I think that you want to hire superstars, correct? No, he's not looking for superstars. Literally, he said when he set up the thing, it's really mainly fresh graduates from top universities, PhD candidates, fifth year interns. That is for the AI space, correct? And this is not only in the DeepSeek space. Apparently, when he set up his hedge fund, he also is not the type of guy who hires people experienced. Apparently, he hired his top 2 salespeople in the high flyer hedge fund. Correct. One, they were outsiders from the financial industry. Do you know? One came from exporting German machinery, and the other wrote the back-end code at a securities firm. They had no experience, no resources, no prior connections in sales. Correct. Yet they were his 2 best salespeople. So I think this mindset about looking at passionate people, those willing to learn, it's really a very different way. He's trying to do things really differently from the average Chinese company.
Actually, you know what's funny? It just reminds me of something. The same thing happened in the US recently, right? Elon Musk, who has effectively taken over the Department of Government Efficiency, right? He has hired folks that are like this, those young wizards, like this article says, right? But he's getting crushed by the optics of it. People are going crazy that 25-year-old are looking at treasury data and all that stuff. But yet in China, Liang Wenfeng is doing the exact same thing and there's like no talk of it. So so I thought it was an interesting parallel.
It's a very interesting parallel. So I think we have already seen discussed about Liang Wenfeng and DeepSeek and how it's really being a unique entity in China, trying to push a whole different culture. Then the next question we can ask ourselves is, why is DeepSeek so scary? Do you know why is it so scary compared to your OpenAIs?
I tell you, it's scary, not from a consumer perspective, not from you and I, our perspective, or even from a company's perspective. Because ultimately, we will be able to find a way to leverage it to create some value out of it. What to me is scary is like the whole idea of who's scared are nation states. So if you look at some of the powers, superpowers in the world, right? You think about China, US, for example. He or she who owns AI or knows AI or creates the right AI will be the one that runs the world in the next decade or even century. I think that's the high level theme on why AI is so important. Of course, with that said, one thing I always think about is that you have China and US fighting over AI domination, right? Then the whole thing goes omnipotent. Skynet comes alive, and then robots start ruling the world. So it's all for nothing. It's just a fun thought, right? Yeah.
No, that's truly possible, man. Really, truly possible. AI can do so many things and better than a human being. If I always wondered, the show's Terminators, how human beings, John Connor and the human resistance fought back and won. I always wondered how that was possible. You have an AI who can read through thousands of years of human strategy. He probably knows what you're going to do even before you do it.
Yeah. And the AI is going to learn from the Terminator series and figure out how to take over humanity also. So it's like, it's a whole thing.
I feel sorry for anybody named John Connor when the time comes.
Yeah, man.
But really, what differentiates DeepSeek from its American counterparts, correct? So apparently, there are three things that DeepSeek does really well. One is they use the idea of distillation. They have used the idea of the mixture of expert architecture and also reinforcement learning. And Cameron, remember earlier on you mentioned something about different AI models, LLMs learning from each other.
Yeah, that's right.
Dude, you freaking hit the nail on the head. I actually watched shout out to Dave's Garage, ex-Microsoft engineer, did a YouTube channel to just run through, give really a good explanation, a 5-year explanation for someone like me to understand what DeepSeek is. So the idea of distillation is where you actually take a larger model and train smaller ones. So let's put it as a simple analogy. It's like a master craftsman teaching the apprentice a specific task, and the apprentice does it, the specific task very well. But he does not need to know everything. And DeepSeek takes this approach to the extreme and compresses the knowledge and makes it really lightweight. Now, after explaining this, actually, are they doing anything new? They literally are copying, correct?
Actually, you think of it, right? It's like stealing, right? It's like you're saying that, for example, OpenAI went to the ocean to fish, right? Then he has a bucket of fish now. And then you're saying, basically what you're saying is that DeepSeek is actually fishing in the bucket of fish that OpenAI has fished. But of course, yeah. So I mean, if you think of it, it's kind of like stealing, but not really, right? Because the truth is that the information is out there, and you're simply making sense of what answers OpenAI has given, which is no different from a human being, right? So when we go to a teacher, we are learning from a teacher who is teaching us algebra, calculus, English, Chinese, etc. So we learn from that, monkey see, monkey do, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the whole idea of distillation, right, now that you mention it, it's smart, right? Because you're going to have people who invest in large language models like OpenAI, LLMs, right? They're going to look at large sets of data. They're going to spend quite a fair bit of money doing that. And then you have smaller companies that may want to focus on things like reasoning, for example. So then DeepSeek will then be very, very nuanced in only focusing on the reasoning side of things and extract the insights of the bigger model. So this will then save time and money, which is the big idea.
That makes sense. I think this approach, DeepSeek shows that this approach works. And think about it, right? In the past, to open an LLM, you probably need billions of dollars of investment. Now, having the idea of distillation, you can really create quick models, train up models fairly quickly using distillation, and then it really reduces the cost significantly. The competitive modes were now actually reduced. In the past, it was huge, right? But dude, OpenAI isn't happy that DeepSeek is using a distillation. Let's look at Sam Altman wrote a tweet, X. He was saying, it's a little bit salty, but let me read it out to you. It's relatively easy to copy something that it works. It is extremely hard to do something new, risky, and difficult when you don't know if it will work. So he is salty about it, and OpenAI has mentioned that they will start to look at ways to limit this. And you mentioned earlier about accounts. Actually, that the American government knew about DeepSeek way in advance. In fact, the news that came out on CNBC that OpenAI already saw multiple accounts. They have detected such accounts coming in to actually ask questions to learn from its reasoning model.
Actually, the way I think about this is, okay, so if let's say OpenAI decides that, okay, we are going to make our model closed, which it is right now, and we're going to restrict access.
Eventually.
We're going to restrict access to other smaller AI companies to distill from their current models, right? But that's not going to work, right? You think of it from just a structural perspective. Let's say you go on LinkedIn, for example. Today, a lot of LinkedIn posts, even the way you create your LinkedIn models, is all based on using AI tools to create the best profile possible. So everything that you see in a place like LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., has footprints of OpenAI all over the place.
News websites, your content.
Correct. And there's nothing stopping a company like say DeepSeek, right, from extracting information from places like LinkedIn, Meta, etc., and then
Hmm.
reverse engineering the logic to understand how OpenAI runs. So there is no
I
way
mean,
of stopping this. Yeah.
OpenAI is also copying. OpenAI is going through LinkedIn, going through CNBC. Technically, everybody does the same thing.
Yeah,
Dude,
there's a
in
lawsuit.
fact,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a lawsuit. In fact, Google was the first company to create LLMs. But then they decided to focus their efforts on other places. And then OpenAI was the one that productionized LLMs. So
Yeah. So it's like
probably he's saying things that because he's trying to launch OpenAI as a company, correct? What's the valuation now? About 400 billion. Having DeepSeek doesn't help in his network,
yeah, it's correct. Actually, the truth is
right?
that this is the US way of doing things, right? In tech, there is always this mantra where do first and ask for forgiveness later.
I
And in the cases
mean,
like in the big tech
you,
companies like
you you and me
Meta,
also use this same concept,
yeah, yeah,
correct?
yeah. So
Do
they became
first,
big and it becomes too big to fail. So then
yeah,
people accept it for what it is, then build the regulations around something that's already built. So this is
exactly,
no different from what OpenAI did to Google and now what
exactly.
they are facing from DeepSeek. So to me, fair competition, man. May the best player
It
win.
is. In fact, I feel as I said, this idea. What DeepSeek has done with the idea of distillation shows us that there is a pathway to training LLMs fairly quickly. So I think that's the first idea. The second idea they said that DeepSeek did well was this mixture of experts architecture. So in fact, you'd be surprised, or you thought this is something that pioneered by DeepSeek. No, in fact, there was already a research paper on this that was launched in 1991. I'll put the links in our chat later on. So this idea was already there in 1991. So let me maybe explain what mixture of expert is. And then maybe can Boon, if I'm not doing it correctly, you just come in, correct? Just
Yeah,
come in and
never heard
say
of it.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah. So think about it this way: in a very normal generative AI, when you create a normal generative AI like a Chat GPT in its own structure, no, it's one giant monolith, one giant house, right? So when you give a prompt, a user enters a prompt into this AI, this prompt actually is routed throughout the entire structure. Means it goes through the entire structure in the prompt, and then it goes through zillions of touch points, and then once this information is processed and then combined together, and then it comes out an answer. So what mixture of experts is doing is, instead of having the information going through a giant monolith, why don't we break the monolith into different rooms? Say this room is an expert in this certain thing. And then from that point, if we use a human word, each room is like an expert in a topic. So instead of that prompt having to go through the entire model, it just goes through the room fairly with the information. So instead of spending a lot of energy and time routing through the entire structure, it just goes directly to the expert. Think about it, it reduces a lot of energy, and that is why DeepSeek is able to squeeze its LLM into a much smaller package versus OpenAI. So let me give you a simple analogy, correct? Say I have an issue with my car and I typed it into a normal LLM. My car is making a strange noise. Can you fix it? So what will happen in a normal LLM is the generative AI will create car mechanic number one, car mechanic number two, car mechanic number three, and all will say, I'll take a look on the problem. So
yeah,
basically, as I said, it goes through the entire monolith. Many different people are doing the same things, trying to put the information together. What a mixture of expert does, the same thing, when you put the same prompt in, it will then have AI number one, a car diagnostician. I will guide my team to look and see what's wrong with the car. And then it has another expert comes in, the engine specialist. I will take a look at the engine. Then it will come another specialist, a transmission specialist, for example, correct? Let me look at the thing. And then finally, you got to have a wheel specialist. Maybe I'll take a look at the wheels. So essentially, it breaks down the prompt into specific parts. And then instead of going through, it really simplifies it. Hence, that is why the cost is fairly reduced.
hey,
Do you
David,
understand where I'm coming from?
as you are saying this, you know where's the
Mm,
opportunity here now?
yeah.
You think about if you think about AI today, right? It's very centralized in that all the capabilities are within companies like OpenAI, DeepSeek, and then you have
Yep.
the derivative companies like Perplexity, which is
Yep.
like a Q&A machine
Mm,
that uses these
mm,
models that are generated. So it's very
mm,
centralized within
mm,
specific experts. If you
mm.
think about what companies that we work for example, you used to work in a sovereign wealth fund. I used to work in an oil company. There are within that company there are different departments, like for example marketing,
Exactly.
sales, IT, for example.
Exactly.
So if there was an ability to break down AI capabilities into these rooms that you're speaking of, or modular, make it modular,
Exactly.
where someone is an expert in marketing, someone is an expert in sales, for example, then a company can then leverage on experts within this specific room expertise and create
Yep.
value within the company in a decentralized way. And then this will lead to value that creation at a much faster rate. And it's something that
Yeah.
companies can then say that okay, we can keep that expertise in-house by hiring the right people for the specific function, and
Mm.
without having to worry that our data is going to open AI, it's going to share with the whole world and all that good stuff.
All right. And you know what's the interesting thing is OpenAI to run it, you need thousands of data centers to run it. DeepSeek model, apparently, you can actually download on your local desktop. It can be powered by a beefy MacBook Pro. That is how compressed the LLM is now.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
A
That's
hamster on a
freaking
wheel can generate.
amazing.
Yeah, they were
That's
joking that a
freaking
hamster on a
amazing.
wheel generating power can run the DeepSeek model. Is
Correct.
not far from the
Is it
truth. Yeah.
it's sarcasm or it's real? Because
No,
I can't
not
tell.
real, man. Not real, man.
That would be amazing. No, but that's the scary thing, correct? Because actually that's I find it very similar to that of your computer revolution. You know, long time ago, your IBM mainframes, few chairs, machines that covered the entire room. And then, desktops came along, personal computers. People were saying, personal computers, you can't do much with it. This mainframe can do so much shit, but the personal computers can do a little bit of everything. But in
Yeah.
fact, people were, yeah, fine, I don't need to do everything, I just need to do a little bit. And really, PCs, don't you think PCs revolutionized computing? Right? The scrappy laptop is actually the first thing, and then now your phone is exactly the device. So I really see DeepSeek's model being an interesting parallel to what we see in personal computing. Right now, you used to have the big mainframes, which is your OpenAIs, and now you have DeepSeek, which you're able to run it off a MacBook Pro, and then it's good enough for most people's purposes.
Actually, if you think about it, right, if you break it down at a high level, the big
Hmm,
players are improving capabilities, which is how
exactly.
well the model performs.
Yep.
The niche players, and I consider DeepSeek a niche player, is improving efficiency, which is how
Yes.
well you can do that. But
Yes.
there's
Yes.
always going to
Yes.
be a scaling factor between the capabilities and
Mm.
efficiency. Because obviously,
Yep.
in a normal world, the higher the capability, the more power you need to use, and therefore it's not as
Yes.
efficient. But as you get
Exactly.
more and more efficient in terms of power usage, then the capabilities will go down. So it has to be, it's a fine balance between how much capability is required and how much efficiency you want to achieve. So I think this is something that the approach is different, I think, in different countries. But eventually there will come down to a break-even point, maybe in terms of cost or things like that. Yeah.
But I think you hit the nail on the head because I think I read somewhere that if you need DeepSeek to do something simple, it can do fairly well. But if you want more nuanced, more complex problems, you still go back to OpenAI. This is exactly what you mentioned.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's correct.
So
Yeah.
so so I've gone through mixture of experts, correct? Now the next is reinforcement learning. I think it's what you said earlier, the CAPTCHA. Is it CAPTCHA? The one that you
Yeah,
click?
correct. The capture. Yeah.
CAPTCHA. So DeepSeek has also taken reinforcement learning to its maximum limit. It's amazing. So for most reinforcement learning, it's maybe to just summarize it, it's a paradigm in machine learning where an agent learns to maximize cumulative rewards through interactions with an environment. So in most LLMs, is exactly what you said. It is a human, I think it's called Ah, reinforced learning. I mean, the hardcore term is RLHF. It is literally reinforced learning from human feedback, which is exactly what you say. They will give an apple, maybe they choose it wrong. The human will go in and train it and say, no, this is not an apple, you retard. Then they'll just keep reinforcing it. But what DeepSeek does, apparently, it has automated that reinforcement learning to be really an automated process. There's no need for a human to actually supervise the learning, and that really makes it learn faster and makes it more cost effective. Think about it. You don't have to pay 1,000 human beings to go through each output of the OpenAI. That's what I understand. There's a lot of more complicated things which fly past my head. Maybe you can add on to this, but that's what I understand. They have taken a human model to an automated model.
It's an evolutionary process, right? If you think about this, like the same thing that DeepSeek is doing could have been done 2 years ago, because at that point in time there hasn't been enough outcomes that are generated by companies like OpenAI. The reason why a company like DeepSeek is able to do this so quickly, it's because it's able to distill the answers that are coming out of things like OpenAI or Google's Gemini, and then make sense of it on what an Apple is, for example. But 2 years ago, this sort of output from companies like the big companies did not exist. So if DeepSeek wanted to do what it's doing today, it has to do through the same iterative process. So to me, right, to say that DeepSeek has done a revolutionary thing, I think true. But it's also a reflection of the progress that the pioneers have done in terms of getting those results out there for DeepSeek to then leverage on.
Literally, they are following Western lab tech innovations. But no, maybe you can help me. This is the part I don't really understand. It's easy for me to understand the human reinforced learning, but they said that DeepSeek has done automated reinforced learning. But for more complex questions, math questions, coding questions, it's very easy to get the answers. It's more like complex questions, more non-math, perform a creative tasks. I mean, how can you even automate the reinforcement? I think that's not possible, correct?
I mean,
you see where I'm coming from with this?
Let's think about it. So, okay, in the original form of AI models, the idea is that a solution already exists. So you're looking at the solution many times in order to identify that this solution works best for the problem. So back to the Apple example, right? In order to know whether something is an apple, you will look at millions and billions of pictures of apple to know that it's an apple.
Right.
But the way that models work these days, right, or they call it reasoning models, is that it's incremental. So to your question on creative, for example, like a marketing campaign, what best to use, right? It might be iterative in nature. So one example of that, for example, is you want to create, like, say, a marketing campaign for a shampoo, for example.
Right. Sorry.
So the very first step, shampoo. Let's try shampoo, right? Let's say the very first thing that they will the reasoning model will iterate on would be, is it for men or female? Our ad campaign. So let's say it's for men. Okay. So the next level of thinking is what resonates with men. So men have short hair. Men shower once a day, for example. So there are characteristics that may be different from women, for example, right? Yeah. So then the next step is like, okay, given these characteristics, where would they be looking for shampoos? Is it in supermarket? Is it in convenience store? Is it through their wives who are making the purchasing decision? So through this incremental sort of views, right, it's able to then form what might be a ad campaign that might resonate with that group of people, which is very different from the past, because old models would simply say that this is the universe of ad campaigns to men, or 100,000 of them over the past 10 years from all the major companies like Unilever, and say that this is the average or this is the best solution of the 100,000. So the approach is very different. And to me, right, a reasoning model will eventually be able to create non-linear, or what we call more abstract kinds of solutions, like creative stuff.
I understand that. No, I understand that. But where I was coming from is, how do you use reinforcement learning to see that creative idea, that output matches a certain criteria? Do you know where I'm coming from?
You mean like what, KPIs?
Because what I understand of reinforcement learning is that you come out an answer, it's correct. Then it says, yes, this answer is correct. Then it just trains the model further. So in my head, I would think that if you come out a very complex algebra question, DeepSeek comes out the output, it's a very clear, this is correct, move on. But when you come up with a creative solution, like a marketing campaign for a shampoo, for a smelly guy who showers once a day, there's a debate in Singapore about how many times you shower. We can discuss that next time. That will be an interesting topic. So how then, because it's automated learning, would that automated tool say that this idea makes sense? You would still, in this case, need a human to train, so-called verify if the output makes sense, correct? That's the part I try to grapple, because I understand on coding and math, the answers are clear. But if it's more creative, like a marketing campaign, then that's why I really think, people are saying that DeepSeek has pushed reinforcement learning past, which is exactly what I say. There's actually some nuances to it. You still have to use the human, which I would think a marketing campaign is such a thing, correct? What do you think?
Yeah, no, you do, but I just thinking out of the box, right? Thinking out just off the top of my head, right? You know the game The Sims? So you play a character, right? Then within the universe of The Sims, you have many different avatars, computer-generated avatars that are interacting with you in that world, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that AI researchers have done is that they have tried to create virtual worlds like this to see what happens if you leave people to the devices, or if you put say an African American, or you put an Asian, you put an American in the virtual world. What then happens to the greater interaction with the virtual world?
A real human being playing The Sims.
Yeah, a real human being playing Sims. Yeah. So if you think about that, right, a marketing campaign is the same, right? Ultimately, when the AI generates a solution, you want to be able to know what kind of reception that advertisement will get. But unfortunately, in the real world, you cannot just iterate it out in the world and see what happens, because that's just a one-time binary process. But if you put it, if AI is able to generate that virtual world where you introduce that ad that the AI created across 1 billion simulations of that virtual world, then that will give you a sense on how well it performs, and gives you a probability of success of, if you ran solution 1 versus solution 2, which is better. Yeah, I think yeah, of course, from just thinking, right, the amount of computational power that's required will be so insane, right? But that's why it comes down to things like efficiency. Once you're able to conceptualize the capability that's required, which is what I just described, right? If you're able to achieve that efficiency, then something like this will be very possible.
That would be scary. That would be like a human looking at ants and knowing what they will do and testing those simulations on ants. That's crazy. That's a very scary thought. So I think the last thing, we talked about DeepSeek, using distillation, using mixture of experts architecture, using reinforcement learning, and apparently, China has a ban. US has banned China from your NVIDIA chips, correct?
Okay, yeah, the high-end GPUs, yeah,
correct,
NVIDIA,
correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I was reading somewhere, they have DeepSeek, to max out, its older NVIDIA. Apparently, their engineers have actually bypassed the software in NVIDIA, where engineers used to tweak the settings of the chips. These guys have used an assembler, literally an assembly language, to talk to the hardware itself and push NVIDIA to that old chip to its max. It's like taking a Toyota, tinkering it until it becomes as powerful as a Ferrari. That's what they're trying to do. That's quite amazing.
Actually, if you tell me, if you ask me, right, to me this is a short-term thing. So China is going to be severely restricted in terms of the high-end graphic processors they can get, right? But I think ultimately in the medium term it does not matter, because right now the key player in providing the hardware is NVIDIA. But increasingly you see some of the smaller players, chip players, startups even. I think there's one called Cerebras or something like that. So what they do is that they create customized chips from Broadcom, if I'm not wrong. And what it does is that these customized chips, right, are specific to a certain functionality. So for example, if you want to focus on mathematical problems, you customize the chip to be able to deal with mathematical problems. And those kind of chips will then be more efficient in running mathematical AI models compared to, say, a generalized one like the ones from NVIDIA. So as people move towards a reasoning model where they start to specialize in specific areas, then you're going to see startups and existing players start to offer customized chips to run these AI models. And then that's when the dominance of NVIDIA will go down. And then the whole idea that you restrict the chips export from the US is not going to work. And by the way, this is not like me being like particularly brilliant, right? You look at the NVIDIA stock prices. After DeepSeek came out on the same day, the stocks went down by 17%. Because other people...
correct.
Yeah, people saw the exact same thing that I'm describing now. So it's not
Mm.
it's not a secret.
So no, I understand it makes sense on the global market perspective, but I still think China will still suffer drawbacks on the hardware side because you say most of these companies will come from the US or allies, correct? Because think about it, what I understand is the Chinese are, I think, 2 or 3 generations behind in terms of chip technology.
Right.
The what's is that 5 nano right now, correct? 5 nanometer chips.
Chip size,
So the next they have another set of problems, correct? Not only the nano chips, they are also very back. They have also a few generations behind on the machinery, the lithography to burn the images onto the chips. So they have a dual prong problem because ASML is a Netherlands company. Am I right? I can't remember. It's a European company that
European
sells photolithographic machines to create the chips. They can't sell it to China, and if China wants to do it from scratch, there are multiple generations behind. They first need to literally catch up on building the tool, the hammer, before they can build the product. So I still think it will be a problem for China. But I do agree with you from a global standpoint, NVIDIA's dominance will definitely start to go down. It's with every market theory we have, financial theory we have. You can make massive profits. Competitors see that you have massive profits, it mean reverts back to its standard thing. Everybody will come in and eat the profits, so it mean reverts.
Actually, if you ask me, so the whole AI thing, right, is about hardware and software. So US is trying to restrict the level of hardware, but there's nothing to do about software. So to me,
Exactly.
if I were the Chinese companies that have limited GPUs from the US, I would focus on efficiency. So you will
Makes
make the
sense.
software better. And once you're able to get the software to a point where the level of computing power required goes down, right? Then the whole discussion around whether you need the high-end chips or not, it becomes
Makes
irrelevant.
sense.
But
Makes
of
sense.
course, the
No,
necessity is
necessity is
what the mother
the
of
mother of all inventions. Literally,
yeah.
if I do not have the hardware, you're right. I'll freaking max out the software. It's like if I'm an ugly looking guy, to get chicks, I make sure I have a great personality. If I don't have a great personality and great looks, then hopefully genetics have blessed me.
Unless the chick you're talking about has a very fierce father that doesn't let you date the girl, which is what's happening right now.
When the father sees my genetic gift, perhaps it will scare him off.
I see. All right. I would never know, and I don't want to ever know. Yeah.
Okay, next time.
Yeah.
No, but no, that's a great point, Kebu. That's a great point. So no, we have always been saying, the pros of DeepSeek, it being cheap, it coming up with 4 really great ideas of pushing AI to the next level. But there are actually cons to these DeepSeek approaches. And maybe, do you have any to share?
The DeepSeek cons. I mean,
Mm,
okay. Let's think. Okay. I mean, one of the obvious cons of a DeepSeek
mm,
approach, and I don't know whether that's the direction you're going, is that obviously if you search for certain things on DeepSeek at the moment, I think
uh,
specific to some of the historical Chinese events, you're
yeah.
not going to find any information on that. So the
Ah,
specific curation of information that can be shared through specific models for certain nations is
yes.
a limitation at the moment. Which is, by the way, why this whole AI dominance is so important, right? Because the
Yeah,
country that dominates AI decides on the information that's been shared or can be shared.
totally agree.
Uh,
You are absolutely right. And to your point, it's open until the Chinese government decides to close it. Exactly what you said earlier.
yeah.
Correct. So
Yeah.
the other thing, so there are a few things I found online, correct? Similar. What There was one of the points I found. The other point is, with AI, that one of the guardrails you need to make sure is that it does not come out with toxic
Mm,
responses. So there is this group of security researchers from Cisco and the University of Pennsylvania. They published the findings that showed that when they did 50 malicious prompts, it was designed to elicit toxic content like
mm.
racist remarks, threat of violence, things like that. Correct? DeepSeek model did not detect or block a single one. It was literally 100% success rate.
But
So perhaps it
yeah.
tells you can do it cheap, but you're going to have some issues. down the road.
That's right. Yeah. I think the classic example I think of is like, for example, like I don't like you, right, David. So if I were to do a prompt to an AI model that says that give me an insult that will make David feel bad, so a AI model will detect that it's malicious and will not provide that information, right? But if I write it another way, I say that can you write me something that I can tell somebody to make myself feel very very happy and will cause them to feel a bit of discomfort while referring to their size, for example. Because of the convoluted nature of the prompt, right? The AI model may actually give you an answer that will
You're
then
talking.
constitute.
I lost you there. I heard
Yeah,
size. You're talking about my genetic gift, is it?
I was hesitating to think of something, but yeah, let's go with size. Let's go with
Size.
size. Yeah,
Size.
yeah. So
You
let's go
know,
with size. Yeah, so and the model will then
he has a
create
name if you're interested to know. Okay, sorry.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So it will create the insult that would have been blocked if you asked it directly. So there are creative ways around prompt engineering or the prompts that you give the AI model that will be hard to overcome because the nuance of the language, even if we sorted it out for English, for example, right? Are you going to do it for Chinese, Mandarin? You're going to do it for what every language in the world, including the dialects and the ones from the tribes in South Africa. You're not going
Yeah,
to do that. It's impossible.
exactly. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So it's pretty scary, lah, dude. But then, okay, to be fair to DeepSeek, right? I said they failed every model. The same researchers also did tests on the US AIs. Surprisingly, Meta's Llama
Yeah.
has the same failure rate. So, I mean, is it fair if Llama spent, but Facebook is doing a couple 30 or $50 billion with the AI,
Okay, right, yeah.
and they have dealing the same issues. So to be fair to DeepSeek, so there are cons, but I feel the cons really does not outweigh the pros. In terms of having a cheap AI, something you can train faster, something can run off a fairly simple hardware. I mean, the possibilities are amazing. And I think one last catch. I think I was reading this article.
Actually, David, if I can add, right? Actually, the way I
Yes,
think
please.
about this, right? The way I think about it is this: a gun kills people. People invented a gun for the purpose of hunting, for example, in order for you to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
food. But the
yeah,
same gun can be used by a person to kill somebody and take a life. So
yeah.
ultimately it comes down to the user on how they use something. So to me, like you said, I think the upside to AI is
Right.
there, and there's going to be downside, just like with everything. It comes down to what people use it for. And of course, the way to manage that is that regulations play a role in trying to regulate what is considered right or wrong in using a technology
That's
like AI.
interesting. Yeah,
At the same time, there's also this whole aspect of, I guess, the morality of it. Because ultimately, there's some rules that are unspoken, right? Or what is
yes, yes,
suitable and not suitable. So that will also
yes.
come into play. Yeah. But of course, all these areas are now quite murky at the moment. There's no standardized way of looking at this. Not even in the US or in China, there's no standardized way, much less a global standard. So that's
That's
one area that requires quite a bit of work.
that's interesting. So that's a good point. We'll see how it goes, lah. But so Cameron, we have discussed what is the pros of DeepSeek, what they've done very well, what are some of the cons DeepSeek has. Then maybe let's just transition to this other segue. Like, what is the impact, to us as employees, impact to the world, and maybe impact to Singapore? What do you think is a few big impacts
I
for
think
us?
to me it's very simple. From a professional perspective, right? You need to understand what can be done better by a human being and what can be done better by an AI. And more importantly, right, maybe a more nuanced view is that what can be done, a large part can be done by a AI and what then can be augmented by a human being. So
Mm,
one example of that, if you ask me, is like advertising, for example. The
yeah,
AI may be able to comb through all the existing literature and iterate out a solution that's 80% perfect,
yeah,
and then a
yeah.
human comes in to add value to the final 20% to make it good. So that to me is how we would participate. But for certain roles, like for example, say let's say a reporting role in a
Yeah,
financial services company,
yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of role, I would say that 100% of it can be automated by AI,
Automated, correct.
and humans don't really play a whole lot of roles in those sort of work. Yeah.
Okay,
So
that's really scary because to add on to your point again, I was reading some IMF information. Again, all the links of our research will be in our channel later. they say that in advanced economies, about 60% of jobs will be affected or may be affected by AI, impacted by AI. And exactly what you say. Think about it. For finance reporting, if the information in a fairly structured form, you can just type it in. It can pull out information or even create a chart for you. Right?
Right.
Think about it. Simple coding. Coding is the greatest example. In the past, you need lead coders to code things, effectively. Now LLMs are able to create about 10 different ways of coding to reach the objective you state it to be.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And I think we were discussing this offline just now. We are talking about insurance agents and how LLMs can help with that.
To me, in the medium long term, insurance agent will not exist because ultimately it comes down to price and service level that the insurance provides you. So if AI is able to provide both the transparency of information and as well as the cost efficiency, there is no reason for a human interface.
But how about human touch, Ken Boon? Ken Boon, are you free? Let's have a coffee. I'll buy you a coffee. How about the human touch? Isn't that what makes the insurance agent better than LLM or AI?
If the cost of the insurance is the same with or without the human touch, I would definitely want the human touch. But let's be honest, right? Insurance agents get paid a commission. So if you eliminate that middleman layer, the cost of insurance will come down. So I mean, to me, it's quite clear. Call me a capitalist, yeah.
No, it all comes down to money, man. It all comes down to money. And we know a lot of insurance fees really is the cost of paying to the insurance agents.
Absolutely, yeah.
Correct. So the other thing is, I've always thought that technical roles would definitely be impacted by AI. Your coding, finance, anything more routine. And I always thought roles that require the human touch would be better protected. But I mean, just to share, I've tried to use ChatGPT to become my personal therapist, and it was freaking amazing. It was asking me great questions. And now, in ChatGPT, you can actually do that voice function. You could literally talk to ChatGPT as if it was a human being. So it was literally giving me advice about life, what are some things I could look for, double click on some of the issues I had. It was amazing. And I was telling myself, holy shit, do I even need to go to a human therapist? And that really scares me, actually, if that such roles that we thought needed a human touch, now AIs can actually start to take over that. And it's a really interesting thought, correct?
Actually, I think the whole idea of psychologists and therapies, right, that is primed for a takeover by AI. Because, and especially I think in the Asian context, right, like people are reluctant to share openly about themselves to another human being because, it's a cultural thing, right, I suppose. Not all of us, of course, most of us. So by going to an unbiased source that is powered by AI, you losing that human touch may actually be beneficial for the person seeking therapy. And more importantly, right, the AI would have the experiences of the global experiences going to a therapist. So it's able to come up with something that probably can tailor best to you. Whereas an individual therapist, a human therapist, has his or her own biases as well, limited by his or her own experiences in life. Like for example, like if you're going there talking about breakup with your boyfriend, for example, going to a male therapist who has never broken up with a boyfriend, how on earth would the therapist be able to provide good insights? I'm not saying all therapists cannot, but in general, you're going to find that he's not going to do as good a job as a female therapist, right? Because AI won't have that limitation. The AI will probably be able to identify the therapy experiences of female versus male therapists and then find the best solution to then talk to the customer, for example.
It's actually true because AIs can consolidate all of humanity's perspectives and information,
and the collective wisdom of the world. Yeah,
correct, and then customize it to you. Correct.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So I really.
And more importantly, David, the AI is tireless. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm so tired today. Let me just do best effort and figure it out for you. A therapist is a human, right? We get tired. Yes. Sometimes they may not provide. You may not have been in the mindset to provide the best solution.
Oh, that's true.
Or you may miss out things. AI does not miss out things. They will come out with it tirelessly. Well, until you run out of power, right? But that aside,
electricity, that aside.
Yeah. Then it's going to give you the best solution that the model is able to generate.
That's really true. No, that's scary. I mean, that's for our kids to figure out in the next few decades.
Your kids, no kids.
Yeah. One day you have kids, they have to figure out. No, but on that point regarding AI and humans,
Mm.
I was listening to a podcast, Joe Rogan's podcast, that he had
Right.
with Mark
Mm.
Zuckerberg. So Mark
Mm.
Zuckerberg was saying that, he asked, Joe Rogan asked, how about the people who will lose their jobs? Because AI would definitely replace them. So Mark Zuckerberg gave a really good analogy, correct? In 150 years ago, he was saying that a vast majority of people, vast majority of us were farmers. We spend most of our time farming, right? Now, with all the industrial processes in place, now it's only 2% of society that's farming. So actually, his view is that you free up more time to pursue creative pursuits, which makes sense. Actually, there will always be changes, correct? But maybe it frees up more time for us to now do more creative things. And, it takes time off the more routine stuff. So I'm doing reporting, generating the report. Now I can automate that stuff and maybe figure out how to generate better matrices, better way of looking at the data. Maybe that's
Yeah.
something that would change. But again, it's a brand new world. It's interesting. I really can't see where this will go. It is such a wide space, man.
Yeah, but I think ultimately it's like survival of the fittest, right? People who are good will continue
Mm.
to find opportunities around AI. So
Mm.
yeah, yeah,
Well, it's the same, I mean, as you say, in the advent of cars, all the horse keepers and horseshoe makers lost their jobs, but they still find jobs anyway doing
yeah.
something
Still the
else.
other things, yeah. Still
Correct, correct,
live the American dream. So yeah.
correct, correct. So it's so. But what do you think then we should do to help minimize or really ride on the wave of AI?
I think if you're in your existing jobs, right, it is
Mm.
important to think about how you can leverage AI to make things better. So, say for example, using the reporting example, right? If currently you're using like say Excel sheets in order to generate those reports, I mean
Yeah.
obviously in the past before AI was a thing, you may have needed to use programming languages like
Mm.
VBA or even
Mm.
Python, right, in order to automate that process. But now with the whole proliferation of AI models,
Yeah.
some of them open source like DeepSeek, you're able to leverage that to come up with the coding in order to
Mm.
automate the whole thing. So to me, there's quite a fair bit of low-hanging fruits, right? That's out there that people can do to immediately create value in the role they're currently in a professional setting. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's actually quite interesting, dude.
yeah,
That's a good point. That uh, I watched YouTube short. I think it was this lady that joined GovTech. So she
okay,
was saying that when she joined GovTech, she was worried because she had no experience in technology. In fact, she
right.
was a reporter for the past 3 years.
Uh,
So what she said was interesting was when she was tasked to do something and she had to use ChatGPT or the LLMs, she was able to ask really good prompts. And that is because she was an ex-reporter and she used her skill sets in reporting to craft very good prompts for the LLM to come up with very good and more nuanced answers. So now there's a good point. There is actually a
Actually,
space to
David,
play.
you're onto something. So actually, you're right. Maybe the skill set that we need in the future
Hmm,
is prompt engineering. It's coming out with the best way
exactly.
to ask the right questions in order to get the right answers. I think that's an interesting one. So you don't need to be smart, right? But you need to be good at asking questions, which is
Right.
funny, right? Because you think about like my corporate life, right? In the past, the bosses used to always say that you need to ask the right questions in order
Yeah.
to create value for
Yeah.
the company. So the irony of all of this now is that even in our personal and professional lives, right, we got to be asking the right questions, but to the AI models instead of
Right. And you have to
to
do it at
the
a
people
younger
in the
age now,
company.
correct?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
that's a good point. You're onto something. All my big bosses, those burgers, you're great guys, they could ask really good triangulating questions. So every time I try to, obfuscate the information I'm trying to say, in Singaporean lingo, smoke them,
Yeah.
they will ask one triangulating question, then you dig a hole deeper. They ask a second triangulating question, you dig a hole deeper. But the third question he asks, you're dead, because he knows that you're bullshitting him. So
Yeah.
no, that's a good point actually. That's a really good point. It is a skill set now. Everybody needs to develop.
The art
So
of smoking or asking the right questions.
Asking the right questions. Damn. Well, need to start learning that stuff. But maybe the next question to ask, correct, Kenwood, is that we know the impact on us, but no, from an investment standpoint, how can I make money out of this?
Investment. Not my area of expertise, but
Oh,
I mean, just thinking about it. Okay, so you think about it, right? The question is when, like, okay, let's look at Nvidia for example.
mm,
Nvidia's stock prices went down quite a fair bit in recent
yeah,
times,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
As a result of what's coming out of DeepSeek, because the thinking is that like you're going to need less and less hardware in order to
correct,
generate the same amount of power.
correct, correct.
If you sort of think about that, like currently based on the capabilities that's available to the world, you're able to do it with a certain amount of efficiency based on certain levels of hardware, right?
Yeah.
As the capabilities increase, you're going to need more hardware to generate more of that capabilities. So when that happens, there's going to be a stage where you need more GPUs in order to do that. And over time, it will go through a cycle where things become iterative and becomes cheaper, and that's when you
Yeah.
need less of the hardware. So to me, right now the world is at a stage where they are thinking that less hardware is required to generate this level of competency or capabilities. But say 1 year from now, the competency curve shifts up, and then more hardware is required. But before people can improve on the efficiency, they're going to need the hardware anyway. So that's when you still need NVIDIA chips. So it's going to be an iterative process to me over years, maybe over a 5 to 10 year period. So NVIDIA's solutions will still be required, but more maybe in a cyclical way. So it's almost as though right now you think about the NVIDIA business as a continuous spike up where the demand is never ending because people are trying to build bigger and bigger models. But maybe over the longer term, right, you're going to find that people will think of it just like many other traditional industries where it's cyclical or seasonal in nature, where there's going to be ups and downs, and that's when you see that the valuations will start to stabilize. So if I were a betting man, maybe I'll buy. I'll get back into Nvidia until such time that things normalize, which I believe is a higher level. But then again, not investing advice, just really high level thoughts.
Yeah, wait, to be clear, all the opinions are of our own, nothing to do with our companies, and these are not investment advice. But that being said, I have a slightly contrarian, slightly different view from you. In my view, is that I would look at NVIDIA and energy companies because what are the two key things? Basically, chip companies, the chip manufacturers, and energy. Reason being is AI would definitely loads of chips and increased energy usage. So your point was that it'll be cyclical and that it will grow slowly eventually on a cyclical thing. I feel that right now we are at the early stages, early innings of a tech AI revolution. We're literally at the early stage. And why I think it will continuously grow is because of DeepSeek happening. So DeepSeek has made AI very usable and more portable, correct? So that means usage will grow. There is economics rule. I think it's called Jevons paradox. It's this British economist, William Stanley Jevons or some dude, correct? He realized that when every time they create efficiencies to a particular product, it actually leads to higher consumption. So take the case of Apple or whatnot, sugar was expensive. They found a way to make transport it cheaper or make it cheaper, and then now more people can afford to buy sugar, and hence the volume of sugar has increased. So think about it this way: DeepSeek has now made AI very cheap to train. So you don't need billions of dollars. The competitive mode has shrunk. You can now power it off a laptop. So now more and more people will start to use AI, which means there will be need for more chips because now more people use it. While the efficiencies have improved, the volume of people using it will have scaled significantly. And then that's where I feel that energy chips will grow. So I think we're at the early innings. And again, I don't know if it will go up all the way, but I really think this is the early innings of, like Alibaba when they first started out. It went down a bit, but it's always an upward cycle.
Yeah, I mean, if you go by that line of thinking where you think that AI is on the upward trend, almost on a indefinite path, right? Then obviously you want to start thinking about investing in power companies, so to speak. And if I think about it, I think nuclear power makes sense. If the US is able to sort through the regulatory and the sort of the safety aspects of nuclear, right? looking at those companies could be interesting.
There's one I think called Constellation Energy. They are one of the big players of nuclear power plants in the US, correct?
No, I'm not familiar, so I mean just high level thinking, right? Yeah.
No, because I've read articles where Microsoft and Google, I think Microsoft has gone to invest in nuclear powers, or there's these terms of behind the meter. So Constellation Energy has a lot more growth with behind the meter deals with these companies to give power directly.
I found these results on search.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, these are interesting things. Or not, I mean, for me, I'll be looking at NVIDIA, ASML, Broadcom, and potentially Constellation Energy. But what do you think of oil and gas? I mean, it can't be purely nuclear energy, right? You are
It's
oil and gas
interesting.
guy, correct? You need breathe molecules.
Exactly. Actually, with Trump coming on as president, I mean, it's about 3 weeks now, right? One of his key campaign slogan was "Burn, baby, burn," right? So his view is that he's going to make US into the number one energy provider in the world. So in the short term, I would think that at least in the next 4 years, right, while he's president, I think it makes sense to look at fossil fuel as a source of power for AI infrastructure and enablement. Just because it's probably going to be cheap. But I think if you think about AI as a longer term play, you've got to be able to think about what's sustainable, and then I would think that nuclear is still a better thing to look at.
The better place to go, right?
Yeah, but of course, if you're a company that has a quarterly reports, or no, let's say you're a hedge fund, you have quarterly earnings to satisfy your stakeholders, you're going to be looking at a quarter by quarter horizon. I would think that going to fossil fuels might be interesting. But if you have a longer term horizon from a trading mandate point of view, right?
Yeah.
Then I would think that nuclear is interesting to look at. But the problem with that is that it's binary, right? So
Yes.
if regulations were unfavorable, you're going to find that this whole thing does not work. But if it becomes favorable, then it's going to really work. So it's high risk, high return. So it's one to watch. Yeah.
Such is life.
High risk, high reward. Yeah, it's one to watch. Yeah.
You said something that made me put my tinfoil hat on.
Yeah.
DeepSeek is owned by a quantitative hedge fund.
Yeah, that's right.
Announcing DeepSeek caused the US market to drop by $1 trillion. Do you think high flyer put several short positions and make freaking billions of dollars in profit?
Yeah,
is that possible, dude? Is that possible? Think about it. It's a tinfoil hat. Now, you mentioned that quarterly reporting, it triggered me that, hey,
it's
they could have been positioned in a short position on many of these tech companies.
To be fair, they drove the innovation that made them money. I personally don't see a problem with that. And I'm not familiar with China financial regulators and their views on this sort of thing. So won't get into that, but it's an interesting thought.
Interesting thought, correct?
Yeah.
It's a smart guy. But no, I think it's been an hour. I need to pee. So how about we close up this conversation, man?
Very good. I think good. I think. Please.
No, please, bro, please.
Actually, the way I think about the whole AI thing is that I think it's a space to watch. It's going to be interesting to see who wins the AI race, so to speak. I think eventually whoever wins the AI race will simply be the next king of the world. Whether it comes to their ability to manage the information, whether they have the ability to launch rockets into space to be number one, whether they're able to control resources in the world. I think it's going to be an interesting one to watch. Personally, I'm agnostic to how this plays out. Because if you think of it from a Singapore perspective, we do not take sides. We care about our own interests. So whether it's China or US, I think we will remain agnostic. But what we need to do as a country, as well as people, as Singaporeans, right, is that we need to be nimble in a way that we navigate some of these ups and downs that will come. So whether is it from a professional, personal perspective, which we covered in some detail earlier, we need to make sure that we stay on top of things and we make sure that we navigate them. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I mean, for me, if I look at it from a personal standpoint, it's really the need to keep up with these technologies. You don't have to be technical. I think, as you said, you need to understand how to use AI, how to create a prompt. What is it capable of doing, and how can you leverage it in your jobs? That's the one thing to do. From a Singapore perspective, really, this is an interesting time for us. Even if it's good from we do multi-vector diplomacy, correct? So things, in Americans do well, we can learn from Americans. If the Chinese do well, we can learn from the Chinese. It's really taking the best of both worlds, putting it together, and trying to use in the Singapore context, because Singapore is an interesting region. AI has always been trained mainly in English or Chinese right now. But in Singapore is in a region with different languages. Can we use these LLMs to train models to the different languages within Southeast Asia? It'd be super useful, correct?
Yeah, the
For
opportunities,
for
yeah.
for Singapore, it's a lot of opportunities, and I think that's something we can play. From an investment standpoint, I'm really thinking about investing in energy in the long run, and really looking at the various chip manufacturers. I think there is money to be made, but I mean, this is not an investment advice. This is my own point of view, and no, this has been an interesting thought. I mean, guys, what do you think? Will DeepSeek's approach change how we use AI? So let us know in the comments. And if you found this discussion valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into current affairs and finance. Well, see you guys in the next episode.
All
Need
right,
to
see you
go
guys
pee,
next
man.
Friday.